Hey guys, it is Omni, the investor guy here. It is September 1st, as of this time of this video, 2021. I'm telling you that because that is the date of the rollout of this iteration of this calculator. So some of you, many of you have my old calculator for cash flow and a few other investor calculators as well that I've created that I've used to grow my portfolio. And I change them from time to time and make improvements and upgrades and iterations. This is version 10,000 or something along those lines. So I want to give you a quick breakdown on how to use this calculator. And if you save this link, if I ever change the form, you always have a new video to the new form. You can always request a new form from me as well. So this is a more customized form. I've sat down with many of you and put together financial freedom paths and tracks. How do I get financially free in X amount of years, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, whatever it is, through cash flow real estate investing. And so I've added some triggers and some indicators on here that are specific to your plan. So every one of these calculators will be customized to you. Want to give you a quick breakdown. So your information will go here. Once again, not for you to use with anyone else, because one, if you just give this to a family member or a friend and they use it incorrectly, they could absolutely mess it up and get the wrong number and make a decision with the wrong information. And I don't want to be held liable for that. So please, I'm willing to share this with anyone, but we just want to make sure that it's someone that I've sat down and have educated on the process and make sure that they know how to use it. All right, a couple notes about this calculator, similar to the last one. Gray fields. These gray fields, these can be edited. These other fields, anything in color, cannot be edited. They're locked because of formulas. When entering an expense, see in red, make sure to enter them as a negative number, putting a minus sign. So expenses are over here. It will turn red. So if you type in $100 as an example, that's incorrect. You're typing that in as income, not an expense. You would have to go negative $100, and then it turns red, and you know you did it correctly. So very, very important, making sure you enter that correctly. When entering an expense, make sure that you are entering them as annual expenses and not monthly. So we have annual and monthly columns, but the input columns are all on the annual side. So if you know you have a $100 a month expense, you times that by 12, and now you have $1,200 a year, and you're going to do minus $1,200 a year in here. That's the basics. So this link is where you got this video, so you can come back to this link anytime you want. This version is 9/2021, and if you watch a video and it talks about a newer version, call or text me and I can get you the newer version. If you need help with this form, questions, have a deal that you need help analyzing, or you just want to offload a deal that you're not interested in buying, give me a call. I'm actively buying. Also, if you wanted to take the next steps for coaching, training, and or partnering with somebody, fill this out and we could do our best to partner you or get you on your path to your next investment deal. All right, moving forward, here we're going to analyze the deal together. I'll show you how to use this. So very simple, just going to type in the address, 123 Main Street, Bed Bath. And this is, I mean, these don't calculate anywhere, so it's just for you to keep track, because hopefully you're doing a lot of analyzing, right? The rule of thumb, 100, 30, 10, 1. You need 100 properties. You need to use a rule of thumb to quickly eliminate most of them, get down to roughly 30. Then you're going to analyze them. Maybe you're going to make an offer on 10, and maybe you actually go under contract with 1. So that's a basic rule of thumb for investing. So you're going to keep these saved on your computer, and you can go back to them, because maybe make an offer on a property today and they don't accept it, and 6 months down the road it's still available. And who knows, you just already have the numbers, they do a price reduction, and now the numbers work even better. You could upgrade your offer there. But we're going to put in here, let's say it's a 3-bedroom, 2-bath. You're built, 1950 or something along those lines. Total square footage, 3,000. Once again, not as important, because we're not talking about construction renovations on this. There's a separate calculator to help you come up with renovation costs. That's not what this is. This is all about cash flow. Value add opportunity. This might be a note in terms of it's a 2-bedroom, but it can be converted to a 3-bedroom to increase rents. If it is multifamily, how many units? So if it's a single family, you're just going to put 1 rental unit. If it's a duplex, you're going to put 2 rental units there. And then we're going to go from there. So I'm going to pull up an example. We're going to schedule back and forth from this example here. This is an on the market deal. It's a duplex and 2,200 square feet duplex here. This one is in Maryland. Price is $150. All right. So we are going to put in listing price $150. If it's an off-market deal, there is no listing price, right? So leave that blank. And the purchase price, go ahead and put in $150 just to see what it looks like. Now, acquisition costs, that's your home inspection, that's your lending costs, that's your title costs, and that will vary by state to state. That'll vary by price point. I'm going to estimate somewhere in the realm of $8,000 for this price point. It'll go up with price. If it's a cash purchase at some point, that goes down. But that will vary based on your credit, based on a lot of other things. If it's noted that you need to make repairs right away, so you're putting that in with your purchase cost. So if there's $10,000 of repairs, you can type that in. And so your initial investment, that's the amount of cash out of pocket there. But let's assume that this one doesn't need any repairs. All right, so we're also looking for costs. So this has taxes of $1,262 a year. So I'm going to go ahead and type in $1,262, but remember it's a negative $1,262 per year. All right, should show up red, perfect. And property insurance, if you own some properties, and you could just use some estimates based on properties you own similar to this. If not, I like to use a basic rule of thumb of 1% of the purchase price. That gets me pretty close to the number. Sometimes it's high, sometimes it's low, but this is a $150,000 purchase price. So I'm just going to say 1%, which is $1,500 a year. Should get me pretty close to the right amount of insurance coverage, barring any unique circumstances. All right, so now we need to know the rent, right? We need to know how much this is renting for so we can figure out what the cash flow looks like. So we're going to go down further on the list. Looks like it's a 2-bedroom and a 3-bedroom. Actual rent, perfect. So they're listing the actual rent is $3,720, and once again, we're going to input that in there. And this is income, not an expense. And the income we actually list on a monthly basis. So 3,720 divided by 12 equals, they are bringing in 2,560 per month. 2,560 per month, and that comes out to 3,720 per year. That breaks down to per unit 1,280 per month. Okay, not bad. All right, some pretty good numbers so far. Many of you have heard of the 1% rule, the 1.25% rule. This will automatically calculate for us and just tell you where you are, just so you can quickly look. If you just put in price and rent, you can kind of see where it is. And so to meet the 1% rule, it would have to rent for at least $1,500, which it does. That's exactly 1%. So let's say I'm looking at this deal and it says it rents for $1,400. Oops. Doesn't meet the 1% rule. Doesn't mean you don't buy it or it might not be a good deal. It just is kind of that minimum threshold. Some of you have a minimum threshold lower than 1%. Some have a minimum threshold higher than 1%, depending on your plan. And I'll input that into this formula for you. But let's go back into exactly what this deal is. 2,560. Perfect. Here are just generic numbers here. I always put in 10% for property management, and I put in a minimum of 10% for reserves. Some put in much more than that. So that'll depend on the property, that'll depend on the area, that'll depend on whether it was renovated recently or not. This vacancy, capital, repair reserves, basically. And so if you say I want to do 10%, it automatically takes the rent, annual rent, and 10%. If I want to do 20%, it'll automatically take or 30% take the rent and do the math for us there. So that's going to be up to you, and that's going to be property by property. But when I analyze things, I start out with 10% just to get apples to apples, and then I make actual adjustments based on property condition after that to see if it still fits that criteria. And so we're going to leave that at 10% for this example. All right, so this tells me I need about $150,000 to purchase this property, but I'm going to factor in using a loan here. If I was to purchase this cash, so these are all the expenses adding up, $9,000 roughly of expenses per year, $30,000 of income. So you have a positive cash flow of $21,000 roughly, which is just under $2,000 a month. Not bad. That's a 13, almost 14% cash on cash return. Not bad. All right. But can we make it even better? Yes, we can. So amortization, if it's a residential loan, you're probably going to do 30-year amortization. If you're an investor, you're probably going to do 25% down. You can do 20% down, but it's just better to do 25% down because your loan costs don't skyrocket like they do if you put less than 25% down as an investor. Depending on when you're watching this, the interest rates will vary anywhere between 3% and 5% or so. So I'm just going to say 4%. Just got a loan a little bit less than 4%, realistic at least at this point. So the loan for this property would be $112. The mortgage payment, principal and interest, would be $537, and based on that, we're adding that mortgage payment, $537 times 12, and you're subtracting that from this cash purchase scenario. So in reality, if you got a mortgage, you're going to have about $15,000 a year positive cash flow, which is $1,200 to $1,300 a year per month positive cash flow. All right, so these green block boxes also will be tied into your minimum requirement for ROI. Cash on cash ROI, some of you have a minimum requirement of 10, some of you have a minimum requirement of 20 or 15 or 17. It depends on your plan. But I think on this one we put a generic 12% minimum in there, so it's more than 12%, which is 33%, and so that means absolutely it meets your minimum. How can we? So let's say you call and you find out that, oops, the listing was incorrect. The utilities are actually not paid by the tenant, and the utilities are covered by the landlord. And I'm going to say, okay, let me estimate the utilities. If it's water, $100 a month is a generic number I use, times units times 12 months. So 100 times 2 is $200, and then times 12 months is $2,400. So I'm going to just pretend that this is minus 2,400 just to come up with generic numbers here. So now higher expenses, you can see that drops even more. So even with landlord paying water, utilities, 28% meets that minimum of 12% in this example. So let's say it's a different property or gets bid up, and now we're looking at $210,000. All right, that affects your cash on cash return, still 70%. So in theory, you can still buy this. It meets your 1% rule, and it also meets your minimum of 12% cash on cash return in this example. How high could we go? 240,000. All right, still not bad. Let's say 240,000, and it turns out I need to put in $5,000 of repairs. Still above that 12 there, but what you get the contractor in there, and now it's $10,000 of repairs. What does that do? Less than that minimum. Red doesn't mean you don't do it. It just helps you stay on track with what was your initial goal. Some of you are putting together 1 year, 2 year plan. Some of you are putting together 10-year plan. So what is your goal at the beginning? This can obviously be adjusted along the way, but so you have some leeway on this, to make that work. So I'm gonna back out of that just to show you how that works. And what was this? 150. All right, we're gonna look through the listings, see if there's any other relevant. So this one is being sold in a portfolio. So you're gonna see this quite a bit. They want to sell it as part of a bigger portfolio. Not to say they won't take your offer, but they probably want you to buy all of them all together, which is a little bit more difficult because not everyone can buy an entire portfolio of properties. Often financing is much more difficult. But let's assume this one works here. And I added some other key triggers here. So one, you can put some project notes in here if you got to renovate, if you got to, one unit is vacant, one is occupied, whatever it is, put your notes so you remember about the property and why you're valuing it as such. Here, this is not part of an Excel sheet. This is just a screenshot of FYI stuff in terms of if you put 25% down without a calculator, you can quickly point to a 4% interest rate on a $200,000 purchase means you're $716 a month. So quick mortgage calculation for you there, chart. And also want to show you guys what the principal pay down. So we talk about not worrying about appreciation in this financial freedom stage. Appreciation is very important, but not in the financial freedom stage if you do it correctly. In the wealth building or legacy generational wealth stage, is going to be much more important. But debt pay down happens automatically when you pay your mortgage payment, and in theory your tenant should always be paying your mortgage payment. So in year one, if you have a 3.5% mortgage, did you know in year one you are paying off 1.92% of that mortgage? That's just how the math works out. So if your mortgage is $200,000 a month, or $200,000 total, for example, and you times that by 1.92%, $3,840 is what you actually pay down that first year. And then in year two, you're paying down 1.99%. In year three, you're paying down 2%. In your first 5 years, you're paying down roughly 10% in that example. And so even if the market value doesn't do anything, you're getting cash flow that you're happy with, and then you have equity buildup based on debt pay down. All right, so that's what that rule of thumb is. But here, it will automate it for you. So let's say we're looking at this in year 5. You own it for 5 years. Right, we have 28% cash on cash ROI, but IRR, which talks about debt pay down and equity as well, we're going to throw that into that, and that's going to average out to about a 33% IRR, which is nowhere near as important as cash on cash in this financial freedom stage, but it's nice for you guys to be able to see that as well if there's appreciation, right? And in many markets there are appreciation, we can figure out what is the average. There's no way to predict what it will continue to do, but we can look at historically what we've seen. And let's say this market, as an example, is a 3% per year appreciation conservatively. And so that will automatically do it at the end of 5 years. It's saying the debt pay down and the 3% appreciation is about $34,000 of added equity in addition to what you put down, added equity. And so now your IRR per year over that last 5 years, if you capitalize on this equity, turns into 43%. So that was a lot, I know, but most of the calculators are very, very similar to how it used to be. Had this element right here is for balloon payments and creative finance strategies. Most of you are not going to be using this right now. As you know, when I make an offer on a property, I typically make 2, 3, or 4 offers to the same property with different structures. And this is what I use to help me identify: how do I make a cash offer? How do I make a seller financing offer? How do I make a regular financing offer? At different prices and different terms to equal the same thing for me or comparable to me, no matter which the seller picks. And so this is what it is. So look for another video that I'll put out called Multiple Offer Strategy, and I'll probably be hosting here on the blog as well. If you have any questions, give me a call. If you need an updated form, give me a call. If you need help analyzing or looking at buying a cash flow property or any sort of investment property, I'm here for you. Hope to hear from you soon. Have a great day. Bye for now.